Social injustice. Let me explain to you what social injustice means. There are a couple of people that spring to mind very quickly when I talk about social injustice. And these people are Martin Luther King and Mother Teresa. Injustice is unfairness. Social is society. So unfairness in society. In the past, certainly amongst black Americans, there was an unfairness towards them from the white majority government and people around. That means they didn't get education, they didn't get fair housing or fair treatment, they weren't allowed to vote. And also Mother Teresa fought for justice for the poor, sick and dying. Each members of these groups, the poor, sick and dying and black Americans, were having injustices done against them by a majority group. Now that is unfair, and that is an example of social injustice. Another example might be disabilities, or even sex, in terms of whether you're gay, straight, lesbian. People can have injustice done against them. So it might limit them getting jobs, getting promotion, getting the right pay because of any one of these particular areas. And it still happens, unfortunately, around the world today. Some quotes about social injustices are, everyone is equal in the eyes of God. God created man and woman equally. There is no favouritism in this when God created man and woman. So you need to bear in mind that from a Christian perspective, social injustice is wrong. And Martin Luther King would have used this idea of whether you're black, white, whatever colour of skin you have, that injustice is wrong because we're all equal. There's also another quote you'll see there that talks about being an alien. This idea of being an alien is not necessarily you come from Mars, although some of you may do. It's the idea of you being a stranger in a different society. And what this means is simply that you need to treat people who are not native to your country, you need to accept them and look after them and care for them. Not basically do everything for them necessarily, but you should treat them as fellow human beings. And even today, when we look at refugees in our country, they don't necessarily get a fair deal in the newspapers or even amongst our own family members either as well. So, what do we go on to next with social injustice? Amnesty International is an organisation that exists. They exist to try and get justice for people around the world. What do? Well, they do all sorts of things. They lobby governments, they lobby ministers, they basically try and get people who have been imprisoned unfairly, treated unfairly, they try to get them justice. Now, how may someone support these? They may support them by joining their organisation, and that money will go to help fight causes of injustices around the world. Maybe children are being forced to work. Maybe people are being forced in the sex industry. Maybe women aren't being treated fairly, or people aren't being paid fairly. There are a number of things that can be done. And what people can do is they can write to the government, they can do all sorts of things to try and get justice for these people around the world. And you need to remember that the questions in the exam might be a why they do it, and also it might be a how they do it as well. So you've got to remember, is it how or is it why?